Lieutenant John Weber stepped off the transport ship and took his first breath of processed air in the Galactic Academy of Sciences. The air felt thin in his lungs, adjusted to accommodate the various species that called the station home. He squared his shoulders and gripped his duffel bag tighter. After 15 years in Earth's Space Force, he thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. A tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms approached him. 2 of those arms were folded across its chest, while the other 2 extended in what Weber recognized as the universal greeting gesture. "Lieutenant Weber, welcome to the Academy. I am Director Zal Thur," the alien said, its translator device giving its voice a slight metallic quality. "Your arrival marks a historic occasion. You are the first human to join our teaching staff." Weber nodded. "Thank you, Director. I'm honored to represent Earth here." Zal Thur's upper eye ridges twitched. "I must be honest, Lieutenant. Some of our faculty expressed concerns about hosting a Deathworlder. Your species has quite the reputation." Weber had heard this before. Humans came from a planet that most galactic species considered extremely hostile. High gravity, toxic atmosphere components, dangerous wildlife, extreme temperature variations. To them, humans were natural-born survivors from a nightmare world. "I assure you, Director, I'm here to teach, not conquer," Weber said with a small smile. The joke seemed lost on Zal Thur, who simply blinked all 4 of his eyes in sequence. "Of course. Now let me introduce you to the students who will be shadowing you as part of our cultural exchange program." 3 aliens approached, each more different from the last. The first floated in a transparent bubble, tentacles gently pulsing inside. "This is Zekna, a Quarian. They breathe methane and study interspecies psychology," said Zal Thur. The bubble bobbed up and down, and a translated voice emerged from a speaker. "Fascinated to study human behaviors. Your species adapts to danger rather than avoiding it. Most intriguing." The second alien stepped forward. She was almost human-looking, except for her silvery skin and completely black eyes. "Alara Avisari. Her people are natural empaths. I sense your nervousness, Lieutenant, but also your determination." "Interesting combination," Alara said, her voice surprisingly melodic. The third alien looked like a walking crystal formation. Light reflected off its surface in rainbow patterns, and this is Dorn, a lithoid. Silicon-based life form. Very analytical mind. The crystal being made a sound like wind chimes. Human physiology suggests you require 1.37 times standard nutrition and 2.3 times standard rest cycles. I have calculated optimal comfort parameters for your species." Weber smiled at them all. "Looking forward to working with each of you." Zal Thur gestured down a corridor. "We've prepared quarters for you in Section H7, our heavy gravity wing. Few of our species can tolerate those conditions comfortably, so you'll have privacy." As they walked, Weber noticed other aliens stopping to stare at him. Some moved away quickly when he glanced their direction. His new quarters were sparse but functional. The gravity felt almost like Earth's, a relief after the lighter conditions in the main halls. "Your teaching duties begin tomorrow," said Zal Thur. "Your first lecture series will cover human military history. The concept of organized conflict is uncommon among many of our member species." After the director and students left, Weber unpacked his belongings. Among them was a small holographic projector, a gift from his old unit. He placed it on a table and activated it. Immediately, the space filled with images of Earth, mountains, oceans, forests, and cities. He touched the projection of the Rocky Mountains where he used to train, feeling a sudden pang of homesickness. Weber was the only human in a station of over 3,000 aliens. The weight of being humanity's first representative at the Academy settled on his shoulders. "Well," he said to the empty room, no pressure. He began arranging his teaching materials, wondering how he would explain human concepts like fighting for peace to species that had never evolved with predators. This teaching assignment was going to be more challenging than any combat mission he'd ever faced. A week passed at the Galactic Academy. John Weber's lectures on human military history drew large crowds of curious alien students. They asked endless questions about why humans fought each other, why they trained for combat, and how they survived on such a dangerous planet. By the end of each day, Weber felt mentally drained. The constant adjustments to alien environments also took their toll. The air was too thin, the gravity too light in common areas, and the food lacked the richness he was used to. Even in his quarters, things weren't quite right. The bed was too soft, designed for species with different pressure points. On his 8th day, Weber woke with a headache and tight muscles. He recognized the signs of stress building up. Back on Earth, he would have hit the gym or gone for a long run. Here he needed to find another solution. Weber cleared a space in his quarters and set up his personal holographic projector. He programmed it for combat training, level 7 difficulty. The room's lights dimmed as the projector created life-sized opponents made of light. "Begin sequence," Weber commanded. The holographic fighters moved toward him. For the next 30 minutes, Weber lost himself in the training. He blocked, punched, rolled, and kicked. Sweat poured down his face as he moved through fighting forms he had practiced for years. His muscles warmed up, his breathing steadied, and his mind cleared. This was what he needed. The door chimed. Weber was so focused he almost didn't hear it. "Pause sequence," he said, breathing hard. "Enter." The door slid open. Zikna, Ilara, and Dorn stood in the doorway. All three froze at the sight before them. "Lieutenant Weber." Ilara's voice was high with alarm. "Are you under attack?" Weber laughed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "No, just getting some exercise. Come in." The three aliens entered cautiously. Zikna's tentacles curled nervously inside its methane bubble. Dorn's crystalline body reflected the paused holographic fighters, creating strange patterns on the walls. "We came for our scheduled cultural exchange session," Dorn said. "But it appears you are engaged in combat." "Not combat," Weber explained. "Training. It helps me relax." "Relax?" Zikna's translator conveyed pure confusion. "Fighting is relaxation for humans?" Weber grabbed a towel and wiped his face. "Physical exertion releases tension, gives the mind something to focus on besides stress." Ilara moved closer, her empathic abilities clearly active as her black eyes widened. "I sense pleasure, satisfaction, not fear or anger." She sounded bewildered. "You truly enjoy this?" "Of course," Weber said. "It's how I unwind. Don't your species have physical activities for relaxation?" "The Visari practice still meditation," Ilara said. "Complete motionlessness brings harmony. Lithoids align our crystal structures with sound vibrations," Dorn added. "Movement creates internal fractures." Zikna's tentacles waved gently. "Quarians float in vapor clouds. Too much movement disrupts our gas exchange." Weber realized how strange his behavior must seem to them. "Would you like to watch? Might help you understand humans better." The three exchanged glances before nodding hesitantly. "Resume sequence," Weber commanded. The holographic fighters sprang back to life. Weber moved among them with practiced skill, blocking attacks and delivering counterstrikes. He was aware of his audience but focused on the exercise. When he finished, breathing hard but smiling, he turned to find the aliens in various states of shock. "That was very informative," Zikna said finally. "Most concerning," Dorn added. "Your heart rate increased by 87%. Among lithoids, such elevation would indicate severe distress." Ilara seemed the most disturbed. "I felt your emotions throughout. You experienced joy during simulated battle." She shook her head. "I must process this." Weber laughed. "This is nothing. Wait until I show you how humans play sports." As the aliens left his quarters, Weber overheard Zikna whispering to the others, "Should we report this to medical? Perhaps. The human is not well." Weber smiled to himself. He had expected cultural differences, but not that his normal exercise routine would cause such concern. Tomorrow's lecture on human recreational activities would certainly be interesting. He wondered how they would react when they learned about boxing or football. He returned to his workout, feeling better than he had all week, completely unaware of the commotion his relaxation was about to cause throughout the Academy. News traveled fast at the Galactic Academy. By the next day, everyone knew about the humans' strange relaxation habits. Weber noticed the stares and whispers as he walked through the hallways. Some aliens moved away when he approached, while others watched him with new curiosity. During his morning lecture on Earth's world wars, Weber saw many more students than usual. They packed the room, some standing at the back, their eyes fixed on him as if expecting him to suddenly attack someone. "Is there something on my face?" Weber asked finally, pausing his presentation. A brave Centaurian student raised an appendage. "Is it true you fight for fun, Professor Weber?" Weber sighed. "I exercise using combat forms, yes. It's common for humans." This started a flood of questions. Weber spent the rest of the class explaining human exercise routines, sports, and military training. The aliens looked both fascinated and horrified. After class, Dr. Vexilor, the head of xenobiology, stopped him in the hall. The tall, thin alien had green scales and narrow eyes that always seemed to judge. "Lieutenant Weber," Dr. Vexilor said coldly, "I wish to discuss your activities." Weber knew this conversation was coming. "My training sessions are private and harm no one. Several students reported concerns for your mental health," Dr. Vexilor continued. "And frankly, many faculty members question the wisdom of having a species with such violent tendencies teaching impressionable students." Weber kept his face neutral despite his rising anger. "With all due respect, Doctor, you're judging human behavior by non-human standards. On Earth, physical training is normal and healthy. Perhaps on your death world," Dr. Vexilor said, not hiding his distaste. "Here, we value peace and harmony." Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the station speakers. "Attention all personnel. The Earth ship Stellar Horizon has arrived with our second human crew member. Security Officer Patricia Miller will join us today." Weber felt a wave of relief. Another human on the station meant someone who would understand him. He excused himself from Dr. Vexilor and headed to the docking bay. Patricia Miller was a tall woman with short brown hair and a confident stride. She wore the blue uniform of Earth Security Forces and carried a single bag over her shoulder. When she spotted Weber, her serious expression broke into a smile. "Lieutenant Weber," she said, extending her hand. "Good to see another human face." Weber shook her hand firmly. "Welcome to the Academy, Officer Miller. You have no idea how glad I am to see you." As they walked back to the living quarters, Weber explained the situation with his workout routine and the aliens' reactions. Miller laughed. "You're kidding. They thought you were having some kind of breakdown because you were exercising." "They've never seen anything like it," Weber said. "Most species here evolved without predators. They never developed fighting instincts." "Well, they're in for a shock," Miller said. "I brought my training gear too, including my running weights." Weber smiled. "Running weights?" 20-pound ankle and wrist weights," Miller explained. "The gravity here is too light. I need them to get a proper workout." Weber felt a rush of excitement. "Want to try the high-gravity section? It's still lighter than Earth, but better than the common areas." "Lead the way," Miller said. They didn't notice Zikna, Ilara, and Dorn, following at a distance, observing the humans with scientific interest. The three student aliens had taken it upon themselves to study the Deathworlders more closely. Two humans together might reveal new behaviors, Zikna noted, its tentacles swirling with excitement inside its protective bubble. "Their emotional states seem elevated," Ilara added. "I sense happiness at finding similarity." "We should document everything," Dorn said, its crystalline form catching the light. "Dr. Vexilor says humans are dangerous, but I find them fascinating," as Weber and Miller disappeared down the corridor, discussing workout routines and comparing notes on alien encounters. The three students hurried after them, ready to observe what the humans would do next. Weber and Miller stood in the middle of a large empty room. They had asked Director Zal Thur for permission to use one of the multi-purpose spaces for what they called a human cultural demonstration. Curious about human customs, the director had agreed. "This will work perfectly," Miller said, looking around the room. She unpacked a bag of equipment she had brought from Earth. Hand wraps, gloves, training pads, and a timer. Weber nodded. "I sent out an invitation to any staff or students interested in learning about human recreational activities. I think we're about to have quite an audience." He was right. Within minutes, aliens of all shapes and sizes began to file into the room. Some looked nervous, others curious. Weber spotted his 3 student shadows sitting in the front row. Zikna's bubble bobbed with excitement. Ilara watched with intense focus, and Dorn's crystalline form reflected the lights above. Director Zalthur arrived last, accompanied by Dr. Vexlor, who wore an expression of clear disapproval. "Thank you, all for coming," Weber said to the gathered crowd. "Officer Miller and I would like to show you a common human activity called boxing. It's both a sport and a training method on Earth." Miller stepped forward. "Boxing helps humans develop strength, speed, and mental focus. We find it both challenging and enjoyable." A murmur went through the crowd. A tentacled alien near the back raised an appendage. "Is this the fighting activity that you do for relaxation?" "Yes," Weber confirmed. "Though today we'll just demonstrate basic techniques. No actual combat." Dr. Vexlor made a dismissive sound. "I fail to see educational value in watching Deathworlders pretend to harm each other." Weber ignored the comment. "We'll start with a warm-up." The 2 humans began jogging in place, then doing jumping jacks, push-ups, and other exercises. Even these simple movements caused surprise among the watchers. Many species at the Academy had evolved for efficiency of movement, not the explosive strength humans possessed. "Now for some basic punches," Miller said, wrapping her hands. Weber held up training pads. Miller demonstrated a jab, cross, hook, and uppercut. Each punch landed on the pads with a loud smack that made several aliens flinch. Weber explained the technique behind each movement while Miller showed proper form. "Now we'll switch," Weber said. He wrapped his hands while Miller held the pads. As Weber threw his first punch, a gelatinous observer in the back row quivered and changed from blue to pale yellow, a sign of distress in its species. Weber and Miller continued their demonstration, moving on to footwork and defensive movements. They showed how to slip punches, block, and counter. Their movements became faster, more intense. Both humans were sweating now, clearly enjoying the workout. "And now," Miller said, breathing hard, "we'll show you what a light sparring session looks like." They put on protective headgear and gloves. The room went completely silent as the aliens watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Weber and Miller took positions opposite each other. They touched gloves in a show of respect, then began moving around the makeshift ring. Miller threw the first punch, a quick jab that Weber blocked. He countered with a hook that she ducked under. They moved faster, throwing and blocking punches, their footwork precise. Then Miller landed a solid hit to Weber's jaw. The sound echoed through the room. A drop of blood appeared at the corner of Weber's mouth. Chaos erupted. Several aliens cried out in alarm. One avian species fainted, falling, backward with a flutter of wings. The gelatinous observer completely liquefied into a puddle. Director Zalthur rushed forward, all 4 arms raised. "Stop this at once," he shouted. "Lieutenant Weber is injured." The humans stopped, confused. Weber wiped the small spot of blood. With the back of his hand, "It's nothing," he said. "Just a good hit." But medical personnel were already rushing into the room, emergency kits open. Alarms blared throughout the section. Dr. Vexlor stood at the edge of the room, his scales darkened with anger. "This is exactly what I warned about," he said loudly. "Violent, dangerous species that have no place in our peaceful academy." Weber and Miller exchanged looks of disbelief as the room continued to dissolve into panic around them. The Academy board gathered in the main conference room. 7 alien administrators sat at a round table, with Director Zalthur at the head. Weber and Miller stood before them, feeling like they were on trial. In a way, they were. "This meeting will address the incident in Recreation Room 3, Zalthur announced. "Dr. Vexlor has formally requested the removal of both human instructors from the Academy." Dr. Vexlor stood, his green scales shimmering under the lights. "What we witnessed was proof that humans are too dangerous to interact with our students. Their idea of recreation is violence. Their method of relaxation is combat. They have no place here. Weber stepped forward. With respect, Doctor, you're misunderstanding our culture. What you saw was controlled exercise, not violence. You were bleeding, Zalthur pointed out. A minor injury, Weber said. Happens all the time in training. That's precisely the problem, Dr. Vexlor said. Your species normalizes harm. How can we trust you around vulnerable students? The door to the conference room slid open. Zikna, Ilara, and Dorn entered without invitation. The board members murmured in surprise. Students, this is a closed meeting, Zalthur said. We wish to speak in defense of Lieutenant Weber and Officer Miller, Zikna announced, its bubble floating forward. We have important research to present. The board members exchanged glances. Then Zalthur nodded. Proceed. Zikna projected a series of images showing human brain scans. I have studied human neurology. Their combat activities trigger positive chemical responses in their brains. What appears as violence to us is actually beneficial to them. Ilara stepped forward next. As an empath, I have monitored both humans during their exercises. They experience joy, focus, and mental clarity, not aggression or bloodlust. Dorn's crystalline form sparkled as it spoke. I analyzed Lieutenant Weber's physiological data before and after his combat training. His stress hormones decreased by 64%, heart rate stabilized, immune function improved. The aliens at the table looked surprised. Weber and Miller exchanged hopeful glances. What are you suggesting? Dr. Vexlor asked the students. That humans need physical challenges for optimal health, Dorn said. Their home planet shaped their biology this way. And that we have judged them unfairly, Ilara added. What looks like violence to us is actually necessary for their well-being. Dr. Vexlor shook his head. This doesn't change the fact that their activities are disruptive and frightening to many species here. Weber saw an opportunity. What if we create a controlled environment for human activities, a place where interested students could observe or participate safely, with proper context and explanations? Director Zalthur's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he considered. An interesting compromise. I could develop a lecture series on human biology and psychology, Weber offered. Explain why we need physical challenges. And I could design modified exercises for different species, Miller added, focusing on the mental benefits rather than the physical intensity. The board members discussed quietly among themselves. Dr. Vexlor still looked unhappy but seemed to recognize he was outnumbered. Very well, Director Zalthur said finally. We will give Lieutenant Weber and Officer Miller one opportunity to prove their methods can be adapted safely for Academy life. They will present a comprehensive lecture on human physiology and demonstrate modified activities. Weber nodded gratefully. Thank you, Director. As they left the meeting, the 3 alien students followed them into the corridor. Why did you defend us? Miller asked them. Zikna's tentacles swirled excitedly. You are the most fascinating species we've ever studied. Your differences make you valuable to the Academy, Dorn added. Not dangerous. Ilara smiled. Besides, we've grown quite fond of our strange Deathworlders. Weber laughed. Well, we have a lot of work ahead of us. We need to find a way to explain human exercise that won't cause another panic. Maybe start with something less intense than boxing, Miller suggested. Yoga? Weber offered. Perfect, Miller agreed. Though wait until they find out some humans consider holding still in uncomfortable positions to be relaxing. The 4 aliens and 2 humans walked together, already planning how to bridge the gap between their vastly different worlds. The main lecture hall was filled to capacity. Every seat was taken and many aliens stood along the walls. They had all come to hear Weber and Miller's presentation on human biology and psychology. Weber stood at the front, feeling nervous but prepared. Behind him, a large screen displayed a 3-dimensional image of Earth. Thank you all for coming, he began. Today, Officer Miller and I want to help you understand why humans behave the way we do. Miller stepped forward. We come from a planet that most galactic species consider extremely dangerous. High gravity, varying temperatures, dangerous predators, and natural disasters shaped our evolution. Weber clicked to the next image, showing Earth's gravity compared to other inhabited planets. Earth's gravity is 1.5 to 3 times stronger than most council worlds. Our bodies developed dense muscles and strong bones to compensate. This means we need regular physical challenge to maintain our health, Miller explained. Without it, our muscles weaken and our bones lose density. The next images showed human brain scans during different activities. This is a human brain at rest, Weber said, pointing to the first image, and this is a human brain during physical exercise. The second image showed much more activity in certain regions. Notice the increased activity in areas related to focus, pleasure, and stress relief. From the audience, a jellyfish-like alien raised a tentacle. So fighting makes humans happy? Not fighting specifically, Weber clarified. Physical challenge. On Earth, our ancestors had to be strong and fast to survive. Our bodies still expect that kind of activity. Miller nodded. What looks like violence to you is often just exercise to us. We're not trying to hurt each other, we're helping each other stay healthy. Dr. Vexlor stood up from his seat. But surely there are less aggressive ways to maintain physical health? There are, Weber agreed, and we'll demonstrate some today. He motioned to the side of the room where several aliens waited, including their 3 student shadows. These volunteers will help us show modified versions of human exercises that could benefit multiple species. For the next hour, Weber and Miller demonstrated various activities. They showed yoga poses that Alara and other flexible species could adapt. They created low-impact movement sequences for Zikna and other beings who needed to stay in protective environments. For Dorn and fellow crystalline life forms, they developed vibration exercises that strengthened without risking fractures. Throughout the demonstrations, Weber explained the concept of eustress, beneficial stress that improves performance and health. Humans seek certain kinds of stress because it makes us stronger, he said. Just as your species have unique ways of maintaining health, this is ours. Miller added, we don't expect other species to exercise like humans, but understanding why we do these things might help us live and work together better. By the end of the presentation, many aliens were trying the modified exercises. Even some of the Academy's medical staff had joined in, fascinated by the potential applications. Director Zalthur approached Weber and Miller afterward. A most enlightening presentation. I believe many of us have gained a new perspective on human behavior. Thank you, Director, Weber said. We're happy to continue developing appropriate activities for different species. Dr. Vexlor stood nearby, his expression less hostile than before. I must admit your explanation of human physiology was informative. While I still have concerns, I can see that what I interpreted as aggression may simply be biological necessity. That's all we ask, Miller said. A chance to be understood. As the crowd dispersed, various alien professors approached with questions. A neurobiologist wanted to study how physical activity affected human brain chemistry. A physical therapist was interested in adapting human exercises for rehabilitation. Even the Academy's chef asked about human nutritional needs related to exercise. Weber and Miller exchanged satisfied smiles. For the first time since arriving at the Academy, they felt truly accepted, not just tolerated. I think we're making progress, Weber said quietly. One punch at a time, Miller replied with a grin. Neither noticed Dr. Vexlor watching them closely, his scientific curiosity finally overcoming his prejudice. 2 months passed at the Galactic Academy. Weber and Miller's presentation had changed many minds about humans. Now, instead of fear or confusion, they often faced curiosity and questions. The Earth transport ship Aurora docked at the Academy, bringing 2 more humans, Dr. Kate Rodriguez, a psychologist, and Alan Young, an anthropologist. Director Zalthur had requested more human experts to expand what was now officially called the Human Studies Program. Weber met them at the docking bay. Welcome to the Academy, he said, shaking their hands. You're going to find things very different here. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. We've been briefed about the cultural challenges. I'm looking forward to helping bridge the gap. And I've spent years studying non-human societies, Young added, though I never expected to be the subject of study myself. As they walked to the living quarters, Weber explained how things had changed. We've converted one of the unused storage bays into a human exercise facility. Miller runs daily classes for interested aliens. Any participants? Dr. Rodriguez asked. More than you'd expect, Weber replied. Turns out some species are fascinated by our physical capabilities. They can't match us in strength or endurance, but they try modified versions. When they reached the new facility, they found Miller teaching a class. About 20 aliens of various species were following her movements in a simple exercise routine. Weber noticed with pride that Zikna, Alara, and Dorn were among them. Our 3 pioneer students, Weber explained to the newcomers. They were the first to try understanding humans instead of fearing us. After the class, the aliens gathered around the new humans, curious about their specialties. I study how environment shapes behavior, Dr. Rodriguez explained to the group. How Earth's conditions created human psychology. And I research how different cultures adapt to their surroundings, Young added. How beliefs and practices develop from survival needs. Ilara approached Dr. Rodriguez. Could you teach us about human emotional responses? They feel emotions so strongly, yet control them in ways I don't understand. I'd be happy to. Dr. Rodriguez agreed. Zikna floated toward Young. Would you explain human social structures? Why you form family units and competitive groups? That's exactly my area of expertise, Young said enthusiastically. Over the next few weeks, the 4 humans worked together to create a comprehensive curriculum explaining humanity to non-humans. Weber taught physical training and adaptation. Miller covered security and threat assessment. Dr. Rodriguez explained psychological resilience and emotional management. Young presented cultural development and social systems. Their classes became the most popular at the academy. Even Dr. Vexlor attended regularly, taking detailed notes. One day, Weber found Dorn practicing a modified version of a combat stance in an empty classroom. Trying out some human moves, Weber asked with a smile. Yes, Dorn replied, its crystalline form shifting slightly. I find your methods interesting. My species values stillness, believing movement causes internal damage. But controlled stress actually strengthens my crystal lattice. Just like human muscles, Weber noted. They grow stronger from controlled stress. Precisely, Dorn said. I've been documenting the effects. Several lithoids are now experimenting with modified movement routines. Similar conversations happened throughout the academy. The humans learned alien relaxation methods too. Weber practiced Visari emotional harmony meditation with Ilara. Miller enjoyed floating exercises with Zikna. Dr. Rodriguez studied crystal attunement with Dorn. We're creating something new here, Dr. Rodriguez told Weber one evening as they watched. Aliens and humans exercising together, not just teaching them about humans but finding common ground. Who would have thought that my combat training would lead to interspecies understanding? Weber laughed. Director Zalthur approached them. Lieutenant Weber, the Academy Board has approved your proposal. We will host a multi-species symposium on cross-species wellness and recreation next month. That's great news, Weber said. And, the director added, several Academy graduates have requested placement on ships with human crews. They believe understanding Deathworlders gives them valuable perspective. Weber smiled as he watched humans and aliens exercising side by side. What had started as a cultural misunderstanding was becoming a revolution in interspecies relations. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Academy was filled with beings from 50 different worlds. They had all come for the first ever Cross-Species Wellness and Recreation Symposium. At the center of the stage stood Weber, flanked by Miller, Dr. Rodriguez, and Young. 6 months ago, I arrived at this academy as the first human instructor, Weber began. Many of you were afraid of me. You called me a Deathworlder and wondered if I was dangerous. Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. You weren't entirely wrong, Weber continued with a smile. Humans are adapted for a harsh world. We need physical challenges to stay healthy. What looked like violence to you was actually necessary for our well-being. Miller stepped forward. Today we want to show you how far we've come in understanding each other. She gestured to the side of the stage where Zikna, Ilara, and Dorn waited with several other alien students. They moved to the center, joining the humans. These brave students were the first to try understanding humans instead of fearing us, Dr. Rodriguez said. Now they've helped create something entirely new. The mixed group began a demonstration unlike anything the Academy had seen before. It combined elements of human martial arts with Visari emotional harmony, Quarian fluid movements, and lithoid crystal resonance. The humans showed strength and speed, while the aliens added their unique abilities. Together they created a beautiful display of coordinated movement. The audience watched in amazement. Director Zalthur's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep appreciation in his species. When the demonstration ended, Young explained, "This hybrid training program provides benefits for all participating species. Humans gain emotional balance and mindfulness. Visari develop physical resilience. Quarians improve circulation. Lithoids strengthen their crystal structures." Dr. Vexlor rose from his seat in the front row. The xenobiology professor who had once wanted the humans removed now addressed the audience. "As scientists, we must admit when new evidence changes our understanding," he said. "My studies of human physiology have revolutionized xenobiology. What we perceived as violent tendencies are actually sophisticated survival adaptations. Humans don't seek conflict. They seek challenge." Weber felt a surge of pride. Even their strongest critic had become an ally. As the symposium continued, representatives from various worlds expressed interest in learning more about humans. Several space stations requested human advisors to design cross-species training programs. 3 alien medical schools wanted to incorporate human stress response techniques into their curriculum. During a break in the presentations, Director Zalthur approached Weber with news. "The Galactic Council has approved funding for a dedicated Human-Alien Cultural Exchange Center," he said. "They want you to serve as its first director." Weber was stunned. "Me? But I'm just a military instructor." "You are the bridge between worlds," Zalthur said. "You showed us that different doesn't mean dangerous." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "Emergency and Power Core Section," announced the station's computer. "Coolant leak detected. All non-essential personnel evacuate to safe zones." Without hesitation, Weber, Miller, and their alien students moved toward the emergency, while others fled in the opposite direction. When they reached the power core, they found technicians struggling to contain the leak. Toxic coolant was spraying from a ruptured pipe, and the regular repair crew couldn't get close enough. "We need to seal that pipe before the core overheats," a technician shouted. Weber looked at his team. "Humans can withstand the toxicity longer than most species. Miller and I will get close and seal the rupture." "And I can absorb some of the toxins," Zikna offered from inside its protective bubble. "My crystalline structure is resistant to the chemicals," Dorn added. "I can sense safe pathways through the danger," Ilara said. Together they formed a perfect team. The humans provided strength and endurance. The aliens contributed their unique abilities. Working as one, they sealed the leak and stabilized the core. Later, as the emergency response team was being honored for their bravery, Weber realized something important. What had begun as a cultural misunderstanding about relaxation had created something powerful, a new way for different species to see strength in their differences rather than fear. The Deathworlders had found their place in the stars, not despite their differences, but because of them.